Diana Montford, and this is the Diana Montford Show. This program contains material which some members of your family may find objectionable. Parental discretion is advised. I always flub that, I don't know why, but anyway, here we are on location at Paddles. We're going to talk about and S&M rights, the rights of sadomasochists to congregate, not hurt anyone, and enjoy themselves. My guests are the owners of Paddles, an S&M club here in New York, Master Michael.
Hello, Diana.
Hello, and the beautiful lady Laura.
Hello, Diana.
And now, S&M, what is it? Why do people have such a problem with it? What's going on with it?
Well, mostly I think people don't understand what S&M is, and if they would take the time to try to understand it, they would be a little more liberal about it. S&M, or like my club Paddles, it's a place for people to go and express their fantasies.
Mm-hmm.
In the late 60s, a lot of men expressed their fantasies and their lifestyle by going to gay bars. There was a big police crackdown, and we had the gay movement happen right here in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And we feel that S&M people should have the same rights to go and congregate with their people who are into the same type of fantasies they are, and to meet and possibly even play.
Mm-hmm. Now, for many years now, they've been trying to restrict S&M activity, haven't they?
Well, actually, they tried to restrict many things in New York City. I've been open since 1984. We run a very safe place. We don't allow sex because that would be against the law.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing happens here that is against the law. Everything that happens is consensual and nobody gets hurt.
Mm-hmm. So why do some politicians have a problem with it, or at least pretend to, because it looks good to conservatives, when politicians who are probably doing God only knows what in their private lives come forth and say, now we must do something about this thing or that thing?
Well, that's exactly the reason they do it. It makes good headlines.
Yeah. And now, you have been into S&M since you were in college, right?
Yes. Started coming to Paddles with my, at the time, boyfriend, and
Mm-hmm.
we just started coming more often, and I finally landed myself, Michael. We've been together for a long time, and the S&M was just an opening, you know, it was a way we met each other, but it's not, for most people it's not a lifestyle, it's just like a hobby.
Have you ever, then or now, have you ever been hurt, or have you ever been coerced into doing anything you didn't want to do?
Absolutely not. It has to be consensual. You can't torture somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It just, you know, people find out about it nowadays. There are laws, and
Yeah.
you know, it's just misunderstood. People think that there's a little forcing, and that it's maybe sex-based, and it's really not. It's more just mental games, but not in a bad way. People keep coming back. People do the S&M for many, many years as a hobby, and that's because there is no being forced. There's no bad anything. It's just a game, and you know, it's something that you do part of your time, not a lifestyle even for most people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just nothing to object
Well,
to.
and even if it were a lifestyle, really, who is the government to interfere with people's choice of lifestyle? So long as it's between or among consenting adults, what possible difference can it make to anyone?
It's, you know, the same old thing. Again, people that don't understand what's going on, they use photos of women being tied, and they say, look how horrible this is. This woman is tied down, and anything can happen to her. But they don't mention that woman wanted to be tied down, and if she ever wanted to get up, she just has to use her safe word, which everyone in the S&M scene uses, and she would be untied immediately.
And that's a very personal thing. You choose your own safe word. You
Yes.
don't, you know, it's not like an official safe word.
No.
It's whatever you think your safe word should be. Usually, as you've told me, it's a word that you wouldn't ordinarily use, like cream cheese or something.
No, it's a ridiculous word that you don't want to use your safe word as please let me up, because part of the mentality is that you're saying, please let me up, but you really don't want the person to. So that's why you use a ridiculous word.
Yeah. Um, if people out there are watching and someone might be outraged and say, oh, look at those people on television, how dare they just sit there so coolly talking about this filth and perversion, what would you say to people like that? First of all, grow up. Second, what would you say to them?
I would say that even though we may be perverted, but we're just normal people. We hold normal jobs. We watch TV, the same programs they do. We cut our grass. And Laura rides horses. That's her hobby when we're not here. I collect antique cars. And we're just normal people. You could be living right next to someone into S&M, or maybe even a family member could be into it.
And really, I mean, what is perversion? Perversion is in the eye of the beholder. I think maybe organized religion has a lot to do with the taboos against this or that kind of. In other words, in Spain, for example, they have all these penitents marching along in Holy Week, whipping themselves, and that's fine, but if they get an erection and it's with their wives, then that's not fine. Why is that a problem?
It's just the perception of what people's mentality is. They see someone whipping someone, right away it's portrayed as the person's being forced against their will to be whipped. And of course that's not the reason people come here. And in fact, that's the reason why S&M clubs are important, because it is a place for people to go and live out these fantasies without actually getting hurt by someone.
So, well, what do you think of those people who, for example, place or answer ads in S&M publications? Would you recommend that?
I guess there's a need for that, but for a woman, I think it's very unsafe to meet someone and speak to them on the phone and maybe go out to dinner and make a quick judgment and then go home with someone and play S&M games. I think, although I'm saying most of us are normal, there are lots of bad people out there. Not only people who are into S&M, you can go to a singles bar and there could be lots of bad people there as well. But this is a safer way to live out your fantasies. You don't have to be in someone's apartment or house alone with them. You can actually come here and meet lots of people and question other people if they know someone before you play with them, and it's just a safer atmosphere.
Well, there are bad people everywhere and everything. I mean, you can't really say, S&M is, I mean, like looking for Mr. Goodbar. Mr. Goodbar was not an S&M person.
Right.
So, well, now when you see people who come to your club and are really shy and thinking, oh, gee, I shouldn't be here, do you talk to them and try to relax them? And
I talk with everyone. Laura greets everybody at the door. She always has a smile. And my job is to just walk around and say hello to everybody, and especially people who are by themselves. Because I remember when I was just a puppy going to my first S&M club, how uncomfortable and nervous I was. So I try to get everyone relaxed, and I tell them, especially the single women, if anybody bothers you, just wink at me and I'll rescue you,
yes,
type of thing.
because I've been here quite a few times myself. I like S&M. No, I don't see that there's anything wrong with it. And I remember that the first time I came in, you said exactly that to me. So, I mean, there is no problem. I think, I don't know. But anyway, surely there are people out there who do think there's a problem, and that's the point, diversity. You may think there's a problem, we don't think there's a problem. You have your rights and desires, we have ours. We don't hurt you by doing whatever it is we do. So don't hurt us by trying to pass legislation and being silly and just trying to, I don't know, turn it into some big moral stick to beat others down with. And many people try to enhance their sense of moral superiority by labeling things perverted. This is perverted, that's perverted. And in fact, really, if it doesn't hurt anyone, what is perverted?
Obviously, S&M isn't for everybody. And we do not go out and drag people in here that don't belong. In fact, we see someone that doesn't belong, we question them to make sure they know what type of club they're walking into. We don't try to force people to like S&M. They may like boats, and that's fine with us. But we do feel that being an outlet for S&M and for people who have the same feelings, it's a healthy atmosphere because you know that you're not alone. I get many people, there are only a few clubs in this country, New York, Chicago, maybe California, but the rest of the country there is nothing. And we get lots of people that come into the city and they say how great it is to have an outlet. And where they live in North Carolina or wherever, there is no outlet. So they come here and they praise us and they love it. They promise to come back as often as possible.
Well, do you think there will come a time when S&M is illegal?
Who knows in this atmosphere? Hopefully not, because I think it would only hurt and not help. Like I said, it's much safer for people to come and live out their fantasies in a controlled situation than in the back alleys.
Yeah. Do you think S&M pornography is in some way insulting to women or to men?
That's an argument that you can have a whole nother show on. It depends on the perspective of the person looking at it. If they're not into S&M, they're going to think it's horrible. If it's someone that has S&M fantasies, they're going to think it's erotic. So it's the same as if someone who is heterosexual looks at a gay photo, they would think that's the most disgusting thing they've ever seen in their life. But if two gay people or a gay person looks at the same photo, they say, wow, isn't that hot?
Is there anything else you'd like to say? Since I seem to have run dry, I have no more questions. Why don't you tell us, I don't know, what do you think people out there should know about us? And then
Well, you should know, I repeat, that we're just normal, everyday people just like you. And you may know someone who is into S&M, and hopefully they live in a place where there is an outlet. It's much safer than penting up these feelings and not having an outlet for it. We do not encourage people to play if they're not ready to. But a lot of people come here and they watch other people playing and they see that it is safe and it is fun. We try to have a very fun atmosphere, and that helps people along.
how much time do we have? My wonderful director just suggested some questions. So, what made you open an S&M club?
Well, when I was young, first of all, I had S&M fantasies when I was in second or third grade. I have no idea where they came from. And I suppressed them for a long time until my later, years in the 20s. And I started going to some S&M clubs in the city, and they all closed down except one. And this is pre-AIDS, and it was a pretty intense place. I met someone there, so I guess we're both perverts. We did go there because we had no choice. And I just thought that there may be room for an alternative type of place, one that was fun. And that's why we came up with a cutesy type of name like Paddles, the Friendly S&M Club.
And, well, what was it like at this other club that you went to, the first club that you went to? You were telling me earlier that, well, why don't you tell us?
Yeah, I don't want to mention the name. It still actually is around. But it was a lot more intense. It was, I guess you could say, more hardcore, more than S&M went on. This is pre-AIDS.
But also, weren't you saying that it was very cliquey, that people were sort of, they had their own little subgroups, and if you were a stranger walking in, what happened?
Right, that was the first place I went to. I sat outside for about 2 hours waiting trying to get up enough nerve to go in. And when I did go in, it was all right. It was a nice place. It was open on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but everyone in the place seemed to know each other except me. I kept going back because it was my only outlet. I was from Long Island originally. I was still a fireman at the time.
Yes, you were a firefighter.
I was a firefighter, firefighter. And I kept going back, and I actually taught myself how to be an expert Pac-Man player, because every time I went there, I never spoke to anyone. I was very shy, just like I am now. But it was very cliquish. Everyone knew each other. I would go there. I didn't know anybody. I would go and play the video games, Space Invaders and Pac-Man.
Apparently they had video games.
They had
there,
video
yeah.
games there. Thank God. I don't know what I would have done if they didn't. And when I did open my own place, I tried to have an atmosphere that was completely opposite. A friendly place. I go around and speak to as many people as I can. We have fun videos and light music and heavy music, all different types of music. And we try to create a different type of atmosphere.
Well, in your club you have several rooms, so quite a few rooms actually.
We have 7 different rooms. They're all set up differently. This is our role play carousel
Yes.
room.
So, but my point is that you can have different music for different
Yes.
tastes. It's not all blaring rock and roll or whatever,
No,
heavy metal.
We
or-
have rock and roll in this room, in fact. Another room we have classical music. We have techno in the other one, and electronic in some of the other ones.
I have no idea what techno and electronic are, but okay. But what are they, by the way?
Techno is like heavy beat music without singing. It's mostly
So-called, like disco
like a
music?
fast electronic music with a
Oh.
beat.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just showed what a bogey I am. But, so you opened your own club, and you decided it wasn't going to be anything like these clubs that you'd been to that were not nice to people, new people, right?
No, we opened up in 1984, and
You and a different partner, not
yes,
Lady
I had
Laura.
my partner at the time was Donnie. She moved on in 1991. She moved on with her life.
Yeah, you bought her out, and she,
Right.
yeah.
But when we opened up, we decided we were the first ones to have silly events. We would have a mock slave auction where we would have an auctioneer and have people come up and state what they're into, who they're into, and try to match them up. And
Yes.
people would bid this phony.
You know,
fake money.
I heard about those. I hear they were very good, weren't
Yes,
they?
and we usually have great auctioneers doing it. We had a crime and punishment where we would have
Yes.
a mock judge and jury, and everyone would be found guilty, of course. What are some of the
And
other
got the
things?
punishment of their choice, as I remember,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Wheel of Misfortune. we
Yes, yeah.
had, the S&M dating game.
Yeah.
So we tried to do these silly events just to lighten up the night and have people for 15 or 20 minutes in the middle of the night just have something to laugh about and
Sure.
smile about, and also to a chance for people to meet up.
Mhm. Which, of course, when they're all laughing and having a good time is much easier than
Yes,
if they're like standing, you know.
it takes the pressure off.
Yeah, sure. And surprisingly enough, many people did go up on stage to indulge, to be auctioned off or something.
Oh, sometimes we had to cut the list because we had too many.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say we've had 3 couples who met in our slave auction who have gotten married.
Wonderful.
Now, I'm not sure if they're all together still. This was, a long time
Mhm.
ago that the 3 that I'm thinking about, there could be a lot more, but at least 3 couples who met in our auction, either the male or the female bought the male or the female,
Mhm.
and they hit it off and got married.
That's great. That's really nice. Now, I remember that Donnie was once on the Phil Donahue show, and this audience member asked her, well, what do you do with us? And I'm like, do you make your children do it or some stupid
It
thing?
was one of the worst experiences we ever had. They just didn't let us answer the questions. Every time an audience member would ask a ridiculous question, instead of letting us answer it, the whole audience would applaud. Like 2 elderly people stood up and said, we've been married for 52 years and we've never had a resort to S&M. And the whole audience applauds. And that's fine, they're not into S&M. This was like 1985 or 6, so the world has changed since then, but it was a very bad experience.
And you, of course, are way too smart to ever do that kind of talk show where they're going to shred you alive and use you as coleslaw, right?
I've been asked many times to go on shows, on Howard Stern show, on not Oprah, Jerry Springer, and it's just a no-win
We're so
situation.
honored that you would do our show. Thank you
Yes.
very much. Thank you.
We would do class acts.
Oh, well, I hope you meet one someday because me, no. But thank you, that's very nice. So, how much time do we have left? 7 minutes, 8 minutes?
I think a problem a lot of people have with the S&M is just not understanding it. Um, we're just a persecuted group, not to the extent of some other ones, but you can run many parallels between gay and heterosexuals and the vanilla, as we S&M people call you. um, you know people, you don't know it, but like you do know people that are gay without knowing it. It's the same thing with the S&M. You can't tell, you can't tell that someone's into S&M. They don't have fangs, they're not creepy, they don't slur their words. They're just normal, everyday people. And, they're a little, there's a theory that everyone is actually somewhat bisexual. No one's completely heterosexual, no one's completely homosexual. We're all to some degree, slightly bisexual. I think the same thing is true of the S&M submissive or dominant characteristics. The simple act of everybody loves cake, but you put that off. You save that till last. It's the best part. It's a little form of, the S&M there, the denial, self-denial. Everybody does it. You just have to look. There are little S&M pieces for everybody, and nothing, just to greater degrees in some people than others. But it's there in everyone. And like I said, you do know people. You just don't know you know them. And 15 years from now, you will, when we're all out of the closet, and everybody will be, oh, who can believe that we thought S&M was evil? It's really not. You can't tell.
There are actually a lot more people into S&M that even realize it. A lot more people than come to the clubs. Two married people or a couple could be in bed, and maybe the woman likes having her hands held down over her head during sex. That's a form of bondage. Maybe a couple, one or the other gives the other one a playful slap on the rear end once in a while. That's a form of S&M. So a lot of people do practice it. They may not ever say that they're into S&M. I'm sure you can find a lot of handcuffs in a lot of young people's night desk, but they would never admit that they're into S&M. It's just a plaything. And that's what S&M should be. It should just be fun and playful and not as scary as people think it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, so many people think it is so scary, and that's, as you just pointed out, most people, in one way or another, even if it's dieting, if it's whatever, do S&M, even though they don't realize it, right?
How many people having during their sex play, the man tantalizes the woman and keeps it up until she's so hot, and then he says,
keeps it up until she's so hot. Let's hope so.
and then she says, he tells her, well, beg me before I'll do anything else. And you get the woman begs, but she would never go out the next day and admit to her neighbor that she was begging for sex. But it is a form of power between the two people.
But she doesn't even see it as S&M.
No, she wouldn't even know that it was an S&M type of play.
Yeah. I think what may scare people are maybe the outfits and the idea of sort of a secret society, But everyone's done it one way or another. It's just, the outfits just sort of add to it, wouldn't it?
Well, actually, there is a history about the outfits. Where it came about was a movie called The Wild Ones with Marlon Brando. It was about a motorcycle gang of, after World War II, they were flyers, and they wanted to continue that speed, and they wore their leather clothing from flying in World War II. And that's actually where the leather comes into S&M. The gay men S&Mers took that black leather type of uniform, and that's how it evolved into leather being S&M. But it's originally from that movie, The Wild Ones, with Marlon Brando.
I never knew that. That's so interesting. What scares me is that my father was a flyer during the war.
Oh, you never know.
Yes, well, now both of you come from nice families. You're not homicidal maniacs. You had parents. You grew up and lived life and went to school and didn't kill anyone. Right?
This may be scary to you, but we're both from the suburbs. Laura from New Jersey and me from Long Island.
All right.
So, like I said, people like us could be sleeping right next to you.
Ooh, you hope. But anyway, how much time do we have left? 2 minutes. Well, anything you'd like to say to wrap it up? So to speak.
Well, I think that people don't understand what S&M is all about. It's just about people living out their fantasies. Nobody forces anyone to do anything that they don't want to, and maybe that's why they don't understand it, because they, that's why they're afraid of it. They don't understand what it's all about.
Anything you want to say?
Just that something that you explained to me in the very beginning was the reason for making skin sensitive, for spanking something, is so that when you do nice things to it, you feel it more. If you kiss something, it feels nice, but if you make it sore, red from a little slapping, then you feel the kiss more. So it's not the point of hurting somebody, it's just, it's a preparation stage before the real foreplay.
Right.
Okay.
Don't criticize anything until you've tried it, and don't be afraid. Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death. Anyway, I'm Diana Montford. This has been the Diana Montford Show. My guests have been Master Michael and the Lady Laura, owners of Paddles and S&M Club here in New York. What can I say? We'll see you next time. Bye.